This interview is for information only and should not be considered as investment advice or a recommendation to buy shares in the company featured. Welcome to this Stock Box interview. A research note has come out for MetalNRG. It's a lengthy document, 25 pages to be precise. Now, I remember in the past, when one of these came out, I'd perhaps read the first page or two, look at the price target, and that was about it. Well, in this video, I'd like to try and digest the note and put some pragmatic realism behind the price target, here at 1.2p. The note splits the model of MetalNRG into three main parts: green energy, gold, and uranium, and describes them as game-changing elements. Starting with gold and the Goldridge project. So this is a brownfield gold exploration with opportunities for redevelopment in an underexplored region, which has good infrastructure and power. It was acquired for $700,000 in cash and shares, and has an existing technical report from 2016. The project area covers three historical gold mines, with past production of 22,000 ounces. The geology suggests that steeply dipping, high-grade gold-bearing quartz veins are hosted within a 32-kilometre-long shear zone. Now, MetalNRG's goal here is to process the past waste dump, where an estimated 169 ounces of gold resource is present, and bring the old mines back into production, where they believe there remains unmined gold. The company's plan, therefore, is to conduct a soil geochemical sampling program to help refine the mineralogy and structural interpretation of the project. I asked the CEO, Rolf Gerritsen, to explain a little further.
What we have is we have a number of previously operating mines, and for some reason, the connectivity between these three mines has never really been looked at. So the whole system has not been analyzed, and no one in the history of time has looked at the geology that connects these three previously producing mines. So what we're attempting to do is determine where the connectivities are or how the connectivity is structured. And we're doing that through the geochem sampling program, which will be a pathway which enables us to identify where further investigation will be required to start putting targets in place for a potential drilling program down the line.
The note says that the valuation attributed to Goldridge was derived from looking at another project within the same mineral belt, Gold Basin Resources, listed on the TSX. Although a more advanced project, the note explains that due to the work already carried out at Goldridge, setting out a target of 100,000 ounces of gold, it is a fair comparison on a per kilometre square project area basis. They give a figure of £3.17 million. I asked Rolf what would come next in proving the potential of Goldridge.
Goldridge, I think, if I'm not mistaken, produced 22,000 ounces of gold. And at the time, that was sufficient to go for. And I believe that was where the focus has been in the past, and there was no need to look at the bigger picture. Now that has been exploited, I think there's, from our perspective, and the input that I've been getting, especially from Christian, is we need to understand the geological structure behind all of this. And that's why we're taking this approach.
Now, the research note went on to say that, pending the results of this initial work, that further exploration work of trenching and drilling would be planned, but a reasonable exploration budget would be required to do this, which might not be so easy for a small cap to obtain. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, first of all, the next stage, which is a trenching program, if we get a green light from these particular results, is very manageable within our own constraints, within our own financial constraints. When you start talking about drilling, you can establish the kind of budgets that you really, it can be anything. You can increase it, you can manage it in such a way, but I think for it to make sense within the area that we have, you're looking at a substantial budget. You're looking at a few million US dollars. And that's where potentially a third party could be interested in joining us and joining forces with us to help develop it. Very early conversations have started, but very, very early, very premature. There is some interest in the asset from third parties, and again, we'll see if those conversations develop into something, and we'll definitely undertake them, and we'll see where they lead to. But next stage following the geosampling is within pretty much our constraints, within our existing constraints. So I'm quite comfortable that we could at least take the next two steps. Drilling program to be established, to be seen.
The green side of the business, through MetalNRG Eco, is looking to develop shovel-ready projects in the EU and UK, which have the capability to deliver long-term revenue streams.
These projects, once they're operational, you have a predictive cash flows for a period that can be 5, 10, 15 years, which is very attractive for pension funds. So all the projects that we look at with MetalNRG are projects that they have, anything between 6 to 18 months to cash flow. And these are projects that are, shovel-ready projects with anything between 10 and 14% on lever IRR. So you could have a situation where an infrastructure developer, infrastructure small project investor like MetalNRG will syndicate the position on these smaller projects, which are commissioned much quicker. And when you have 2, 3, or 4 of these projects, besides benefiting from the revenues from the project, you can also sell a portfolio of these projects where you're looking at double digits, low double digits. You can sell those at a predictable, yield compression of anything between 6 and 8, or even below that, which generate a significant capital increase on those assets.
Projects include biomass wood chip and refuse derived fuel, anaerobic digestion, gasification, hydrogen, and carbon capture. MetalNRG's partner, EQTech, is said to be a world leader in gasification, and the two parties are collaborating on the development of waste-to-energy projects. A recent share swap for £290,000 is stated to have cemented the partnership between the two. Here's Rolf explaining that.
The share swap is basically an alignment of their and our interest. I would say it's a mechanism by which they've invested in us, we've invested in them, and therefore it creates commonality in terms of intent and interest. But I think at a more strategic level, it should to the market indicate where we as MetalNRG are headed, because this is something that we're very keen on. It's something that we're very focused on. And I think we have an outstanding partner with EQTech.
The note goes on to say that any future potential projects will have a capex ranging between 1.5 and 15 million and will be funded with a mix of equity and debt. The joint venture have already announced the deal, which is a waste-to-energy plant in Italy, which, when operational by the end of this year, the plant is expected to generate an annual EBITDA of €750,000. And after 6 months, MetalNRG is expected to receive around €200,000 annually. EQTech have the expertise in this area, where MetalNRG lack the experience. But the note says, the joint venture places MetalNRG under the wing of EQTech, with negligible risk to the company's capital.
MetalNRG for us is a development partner. Is very important in the sector where MetalNRG come, which is natural resources. The experience required to develop energy or natural resources project has a lot of a read across to the development of energy or biofuel project that we may be developing as well. So we want to stay as a technology company. We are very much of a digital IP rich company that is developing more and more solutions with a view in the future to license these solutions. So it's important to develop an ecosystem of partners, experienced partners as MetalNRG.
EQTech have a number of further shovel-ready projects in Italy Croatia and the EU, which, if they invest €1 million apiece into 2 additional projects, could generate between €600 and €700 million EBITDA for MetalNRG. The note puts a valuation on this side of the business at $3.25 million, but that is dependent on securing a further 3 projects over this year. I put this to Rolf. The research note states that a further 3 projects are required to release the valuation attributed to MetalNRG Eco. Do you already have some of these projects in the works?
The number of projects that they have on their short list are qualified, they're of interest, and we're looking at them, and we're looking at developing a few of these along with them. So it's a matter of working closely with EQTech, helping them determine the priorities and us working along, because we're not doing this on our own. We're part of an ecosystem that's driving this forward. And again, priorities, not only ours, but theirs and the other partners as well, need to be looked at. All of it needs to come together. Yes, we are looking at a few projects, and we'll see over the next few months if and when we are able to announce something.
We have very strong now go-to-market partners in Croatia. We have in Greece. We have a pipeline of these projects with a partner over there, Phoenix Energy in California as well. So we're looking, very closely in 2022 to develop further the relationship that we have in Ireland, in France, and in Italy as well.
And in terms of funding these projects, then, would that be a joint effort from both MetalNRG and EQTech?
It really depends, because if you look, for example, if you take the Italian plants as a model, we've got 26.6% interest in that, and we are part of a consortium of investors. Some of these projects could be done through loans, through debt finance of some sort. So again, you have to look at case by case, and we're not on our own, and we wouldn't be on our own doing these. As I said, we're part of a group, and all of the requirements of the group will need to be taken into consideration. And at that point, that will feed into the financing and how we go about financing these opportunities.
The final core element of the research note is the company's uranium interest that lies in Kyrgyzstan. And it's interesting that this forms a core part of the research note, as the mining for uranium in Kyrgyzstan is currently illegal. There are some indications, however, that this ban will be lifted in the near future.
On the 28th of November, there was an election. That election has enabled a new government to form, and that new government is now in place. The indications, especially for our project, seem to be quite positive.
The company own a 10% stake, with an option to increase to 51% on funding capex, estimated to be $6 million. The project area is within impregnated peat bogs, where uranium has washed into and effectively contaminated the area. Rolf has suggested in a previous interview that the development of this project doubles as a cleanup operation for the government of Kyrgyzstan, and he's hopeful that will act in MetalNRG's favour in advancing it.
Is we're actually taking what was previously farmland, which has been impregnated with waste, uranium waste, which has come down from the mountains where the previous very large operating mines were, and the farmland which is peat bog, and it's been impregnated with uranium. And our project is very much about extracting that and returning these fields back to farmland. So once we've completed our operation, the whole land should be in a position to be reclaimed by farmers. That means that we've got some support from the ministers that have been voted in, because it falls under this green cleanup environment, environmentally friendly projects. And therefore the rumblings and the noise that we're hearing is, I wouldn't say positive, but it would indicate there is a likelihood of something moving forward positively within the next few months.
MetalNRG already have a mining license in place, and the aim would be to use in situ leaching to extract the uranium, which is measured and indicated to contain 2,500 tonnes. An earlier presentation put the valuation of this project at $27 million US, payback within 3 years and a 10-year mine life. These figures could be more attractive now, the note suggests, given the strong price performance of uranium.
Well, the Chinese just announced the fact that they're going to build 13 new plants. So if you start looking at the demand for uranium, I think over the next few years, we're going to see a nice pickup on that. And if you look at the supply side, it's quite tight at the moment. And therefore, the indications would be the price would be moving north and not necessarily south. So I think there's more room for improvement on the price side. So we'll see. But the Chinese announcing 13 new plants to be built over the next 10 years is an interesting statement. And if you look at the transition to green, uranium is considered a green energy provider, and therefore it's going to be interesting because a lot of countries are still dependent on gas. Gas, in terms of supply, is having huge impact from the geopolitical situation, and the price has gone up very substantially, threefold in the last 6-7 months, and we're all paying the price for that. So it's going to be interesting. I think uranium is a very interesting product over the next 5 to 10 years. If you go back to 2018, I think the uranium price was around $21.50 US, and today we're at 46.45. So if you look at the flip side and say, well, the government is not going to reinstate our license, we believe that certain compensation would have to fall in place because they were the ones that issued us with a mining license. And then 2 months later, they said, well, actually, we've changed our minds and we're going to ban the exploitation of uranium. So there has to be something there. And if you go down that route, instead of using $21.50 as a price per unit of uranium, you're going to use $46.50, then the compensation needs to be a little bit higher, I would suggest. So one way or the other, I think we will get some value out of this.
The note takes the uranium price increase into account, but also the rise in CapEx and OpEx, and has gone with a 12% discount rate, giving an NPV of $33 million US. At this stage in development, the note has risked the project at between 45 and 55%, $16.8 million US. And with MetalNRG increasing to a 51% ownership, would give the valuation to MetalNRG of £6.37 million. Here's Rolf again.
Our responsibility once the ban is removed would be to go out and find the best possible structure in terms of financing the development of the projects. And once we've done that, we have the right to the 51%, which is what is, of course, interesting. Again, I don't anticipate that being an equity investment. I don't expect us to be going to market for it. Our intention and our first port of call would be the offtake and the development finance and the development project finance that we'd be looking for. So hopefully that becomes realistic. And if that is the case, then we have a good chance of financing it.
Now, there are two other interests, namely BritNRG, currently an ongoing dispute, and Lake Victoria Gold. And these appear to be non-core, and this year could see the sale of these projects and subsequently raising some cash. Here's Rolf's thoughts.
First, let's tackle BritNRG. That's something I'm not going to comment on. And I can't because we're going through a process, and it's just unfortunate that we're going through that process, but best for me not to comment on it. On LVG, I had an update from them at the beginning of the year. They're moving things along. They're trying to get to a position whereby they are extracting gold in around the first quarter of 2023. They have to go through a series of steps. again, let's see. I don't attribute a lot of value to it. If it comes off, it's nice to have, full stop. And we'll see how it develops.
The note explains that currently MetalNRG is valued at shell company valuation, but goes on to predict a fair future valuation of £14.34 million, based on the milestones we've talked about and factoring in approximately 1.6 million for both BritNRG and Lake Victoria Gold. The note further adds £3.91 million from funds raised through exercised warrants coming in. They give a total valuation of £18.25 million, or a share price of 1.2 pence. Here's Rolf explaining how achievable he feels this is. How confident are you that MetalNRG can achieve those milestones and perhaps get towards that valuation?
Look, I'm confident. We're working our socks off to make it all happen, and with a bit of fair wind, I think we can achieve it. There's a lot to be done. There's going to be a lot of news flow coming out of us, and MetalNRG will have regular updates to market. But yes, I'm quietly confident that is a realistic and achievable figure.
Okay. Well, Rolf Gerritsen, the CEO of MetalNRG, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you very much.
If you enjoyed this interview, then give us a thumbs up, a like or a retweet. Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Twitter and hit that notification bell to be the first to know when we release new content. There's loads of great content on our website too, across all our programs at stockboxmedia.com. Thank you for watching.